Hello, I'm Samantha Simmons. This is the Iran War Today, our daily briefing, bringing you up to date with all you need to know on the day 72 of the US-Israel war with Iran. In the next 15 minutes or so, we'll be live with our correspondents in Los Angeles, Dubai, Jerusalem, and from BBC Persian here in London. Let's start with some of today's key developments. Iran sends its response to President Trump's latest proposal aimed at ending the war. A Qatari ship carrying liquid gas appears to have passed through the Strait of Hormuz with Iranian permission, though drone strikes on other vessels have continued. Lebanon's health ministry says Israeli strikes have killed 2 paramedics in the south of the country, despite a ceasefire being agreed last month. Iran demands a series of guarantees as it indicates it will take part in the Football World Cup in the US, Canada and Mexico. And we find out why shortages of Diet Coke in India are being linked to the Iran war. We start with the news that Iran has sent its response to the latest US peace plan. We've had no official word on what's in it, but Pakistani mediators have confirmed it's been passed on to Washington. Reports say the proposal suggests the breaking down of negotiations into 2 phases. First, on ending hostilities in the Strait of Hormuz, but leaving the most complex issues of Iran's nuclear program and sanctions to later. The Iranian president did not directly reference the proposal, but posted on social media, "We will never bow our heads before the enemy, and if talk of dialogue or negotiation arises, it does not mean surrender or defeat." President Trump hasn't commented yet on the response from Iran. In the past week, he has suggested the war is primarily over, but at the same time has threatened to return to the conflict if Tehran refuses to accept his terms. On Saturday, he spent the day watching a golf tournament in Virginia, but he was active on social media, posting an AI image of himself on a warship with explosions going off around him, with another depicting drones falling like butterflies. Mr. Trump is set to travel to China later this week to meet with President Xi. Whilst America's top diplomat, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, has held talks with the Qatari Prime Minister in Miami. In a CBS interview due to air later, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium must be taken out before the war can end. Let's take a listen to what he told 60 Minutes.
How do you envision the highly enriched uranium will be removed from Iran?
You go in and you take it out.
With what? Special forces from Israel, special forces from the United States?
Well, I'm not going to talk about military means, but what President Trump has said to me, I want to go in there. And I think it can be done physically. That's not the problem. If you have an agreement and you go in and you take it out, why not? That's the best way.
What if there isn't an agreement? Can it be taken out by force?
Well, you're going to ask me these questions. I'm going to dodge them because I'm not going to talk about our military possibilities, plans, or anything of the kind.
Well, let's discuss all of this with BBC Persian special correspondent Kazra Naji and Peter Bowes, our North America correspondent. Welcome to you both. Kazra, to you first. What do we know about the Iranian response to the US?
Very little, actually. We know that this is a response to America's response to Iran's original 14-point plan. That plan entailed basically a 2-phase sort of negotiations. The first phase to do with the Strait of Hormuz, opening it, and the lifting of the blockade on Iran's ports by the U.S., and then talk about nuclear issues and other issues in a sort of a 30-day period following that. But we don't know whether that has been changed in any way. I'm not holding my breath. I think Iran is feeling that it has the upper hand in this war and is not in a mood to make big concessions that the U.S. wants. And President Trump basically wants Iran to surrender, particularly its nuclear activities, its nuclear program, without promising anything at the beginning. Also, what Iran wants is a promise that the U.S. or Israel will not attack Iran again. We have to see what the details will be and whether they are going to be acceptable to the U.S., but I'm not holding my breath.
And Peter, any US reaction? And we still don't even know what was in the US plan.
That's key. There is no US reaction yet. We've heard nothing from President Trump in the last few hours. But I think what is interesting here is, and we know this from reporting from the last few days, that this is a plan for future negotiations. It is a framework, possibly breaking down, as we've just been hearing, all the various issues, the enrichment of uranium, the Strait of Hormuz, economic sanctions against Iran, discussing all of these issues over a period of time. And what we've been hearing from President Trump recently, signs of increased impatience, I think, from him, is that he wants a deal signed quickly. And clearly a deal to end the war is not going to happen in the next few days, possibly weeks or even months. And listening to Prime Minister Netanyahu talking about the enriched uranium and acknowledging himself that he is dodging some of the difficult questions about how that would happen, the practicality of removing that enriched uranium. Of course, it's echoing essentially what Donald Trump has said in the last few weeks, that he wants that material brought back, he says, to the United States. But it would be an extremely complicated, sensitive and potentially dangerous process that, again, isn't going to happen overnight. So in the last couple of days, we've heard Donald Trump increasingly saying that if there isn't a deal, that the bombing could start again. But as we've been hearing in the last few hours from the US ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Waltz, he's been talking to ABC News. He says President Trump is still prepared to give diplomacy a chance.
When the mediators, in this case Pakistan, ask us, head of state to head of state, to give this negotiation another chance before we go back to bombing Iran, then I think that's completely an appropriate choice for President Trump to make. He is giving diplomacy every chance we possibly can before going back to hostilities, but he's absolutely prepared to do that.
Well, Kasra, back to you. And we understand that a top Iranian military official has met with the supreme leader. Do you know any more about that?
We don't, actually. We know that he basically put forward a report about Iran's preparedness in the war to the supreme leader. But the interesting thing is that this is the second time in less than 3 or 4 days that Iranians are talking about the top people in the leadership meeting with the new supreme leader. We know that he hasn't been seen since he was chosen to be the supreme leader. But we haven't seen him, we haven't heard him, we haven't heard his voice. But a few days ago, we had the President Pezeshkian, saying that he had a 2.5-hour meeting with him, and how interesting man and the sincere man he was, which gave me the impression that it was the first time after he was chosen that the president has actually met with the supreme leader, which is very strange in a sense that if as Iranians claim that he is in a good state, the supreme leader, why has there been a situation whereby the president, even the president, hasn't been able to meet with him? But anyway, the things have changed. It seems that they are talking about having met him now, the commander of the armed forces, and previously Iran's president. So maybe there is something in the works, in a sense that we should expect more of that in the coming days.
OK, Kasra Naji and Peter Bowes in LA, thank you. Well, we know that what happened in the Strait of Hormuz is key to any peace deal. Today, maritime tracking monitors say a Qatari vessel carrying liquid gas appears to have crossed the strait bound for Pakistan. If successful, the fuel transit, approved in advance by Tehran, would be Qatar's first export from the region since the start of the war. However, Qatar's Prime Minister sternly criticised Iran for an attack in Qatari waters on a commercial bulk carrier, which Tehran said was US flagged. Meanwhile, South Korea's foreign ministry says that unidentified aircraft struck a South Korean cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz this week. The statement came after the inspection of the fire-damaged HMM Namu at port in Dubai. The US military shared a video that appears to show strikes on 2 Iranian tankers. The incident took place on Friday before the vessels entered an Iranian port on the Gulf of Oman, which the US says is a breach of the American blockade of Iran's ports. Let's go live to Dubai. Our correspondent Caroline Davis is there. Hi, Caroline. Well, with these clashes in the Strait and still no word on a peace deal, there has been a lot of concern about tension in the Gulf this week. Tell us more.
Yes, well, what a list that you just went through of all the different things we've seen in the Gulf in the course of the last week. And in fact, it started on Monday with reports from the Ministry of Defence here in the UAE saying that they were engaging with missiles and with drones as well. And it's also ended this Sunday with more reports from multiple countries in the Gulf saying that they had sighted drones. You mentioned the ship off the coast of Qatar. That was first reported early in the morning and later confirmed by the Ministry of Defence in Qatar that had been a drone. We then also heard from Kuwait's Ministry of Defence saying that they had engaged several drones at dawn this morning. And we subsequently also heard from the UAE's Ministry of Defence saying that they had engaged with 2 drones. I think the big concern with all of this is that as we see more of these clashes and tensions between Iran and the US in the Strait of Hormuz, the big concern for many Gulf countries is that they get pulled into that crisis as well. Of course, you mentioned the Qatari Prime Minister who told Iran's foreign minister that using the Strait of Hormuz as a pressure tool would only deepen the crisis in the Gulf. But of course, we do expect that whatever deal may or may not be done, or the proposals being put forward between the US and Iran, will include some form of solution on what to do with the Strait of Hormuz. The big question, and many here looking to see what sort of proposals might be being put forward, because they will have a big impact on the Gulf and around the wider world as well.
OK, Caroline, thank you. Well, Israel has continued to hit targets in Lebanon despite a ceasefire being agreed last month. Lebanon's health ministry says Israeli strikes have killed 2 paramedics in the south of the country despite a ceasefire being agreed last month. The ministry statement condemned what it called Israel's continued violation of international laws. The paramedics were from Islamic Health Committee, a civil defense and ambulance organization affiliated with Hezbollah. The Israeli military says it has hit more than 40 sites used by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon over the weekend. The army released footage which it said was of some of the strikes. Israeli officials said the targets included buildings and weapons depots, and more than 10 Hezbollah members were killed. On Saturday, almost 40 people were killed in a day of intense Israeli strikes, including many civilians who had already been displaced by the war. Let's go live to Jerusalem and our correspondent Ione Wells. Ione, welcome to you. Israel continuing to strike targets in Lebanon. Bring us up to date.
Yeah, that ceasefire was announced on the 16th of April, but everyone in the region has really been describing this as a ceasefire in name only, because ever since then, in the weeks that followed, Israeli strikes have continued in southern Lebanon, where Israeli troops are also occupying parts of that region. Similarly, Hezbollah has also been firing rockets, drones at Israeli troops in southern Lebanon, but also at times into northern Israel as well. Just this weekend and today on Sunday, the Israeli military put out a statement saying that it has continued to carry out strikes on what it described as infrastructure, headquarters, weapons storage facilities used by Hezbollah. But the Lebanese health ministry has said that some of those who have been hit by Israeli strikes this weekend include not just 2 paramedics, but also several children who they say have been killed, and also a Syrian national and his 12-year-old daughter. The father killed, according to the Lebanese health ministry, and the daughter critically injured and in hospital. Now, the Lebanese diplomats and Israeli diplomats are due to meet for further peace negotiations and talks in Washington next week, along with some military figures. The hope is to reach some kind of further peace deal. Israel certainly want the full disarmament of Hezbollah. The Lebanese government say that is something they are working towards, although in practice that has been a challenge. They want Israeli troops out of southern Lebanon, and they want an end to hostilities. Hezbollah itself doesn't think these talks should even be going ahead at all while there are still strikes ongoing. But this conflict in Lebanon is also really key to the separate negotiations that are going on between the US and Iran over ending that conflict, because one of the points that Iran has stressed throughout those talks and negotiations has been that part of any ceasefire deal or longer-term peace deal, Iran wants hostilities to end in Lebanon as well.
OK, Ione, for now, thank you. Iran has indicated it will take part in the Football World Cup, which starts next month in the US, Canada and Mexico, but has asked for a series of guarantees from organisers FIFA and the host countries. The Iranian Football Federation has demanded that all players, coaches and officials travelling with the team be given visas, including those who've done military service with the Islamic Revolutionary Guards. Let's discuss this more with Pouria Jafari from BBC World Service Sport. Welcome to you. So tell us more about what Iran is demanding.
I mean, this has got a little bit over the top when it comes to the logistics of the organizing committee, and they are asking for guarantees that not only the players and the coaching staff, but also the journalists and some of the fans, they have said, to get visas to enter the United States. And we already mentioned the fact that IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, are listed as a terrorist organization in the US and Canada. But also there's a travel ban for the Iranian fans. And when you look at some of these demands, it seems that some of them are outside FIFA's jurisdiction, and they are in the hands of the U.S. Immigration and Border Control. But then again, even though that IRGC is listed as a terrorist organization, this is the President of the United States and also the Secretary of State's discretion. And they've already mentioned that they are going to make exemptions for the players and the athletes. They don't want them to be affected. But some other demands are just basic protocols of every other team taking part in the tournament. They want the national anthem and also the flag to be respected. We know that there are going to be fans especially in those two games in Los Angeles when Iran plays New Zealand on the 15th of June, and then in a few days' time they're playing in the same stadium, Sophie Stadium in Los Angeles. They will face Belgium. There will be fans, there will be Iranians in the stadium who might not respect that flag, and they want to enter with an alternative flag to the stadium. So that's another one of those guarantees that they're asking FIFA. And then there's a bit of a unusual one, asking journalists, FIFA, to ask the journalists not to ask anything but technical questions, meaning that cannot ask political questions in the press conferences. I'm not sure how FIFA is able to do that, telling journalists not to ask those questions. And when it comes to Iran, with many other things, even the football team, this whole border between politics and sports is very blurry. I don't know where the limits of that are.
OK, Pouria, thank you very much for that. Finally, today, we've heard a lot about the economic impact of the war. In India, it's actually having an effect on Diet Coke sales. Unlike in the rest of the world, the drink is only sold in cans in India. The ongoing blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has led to shortages of aluminium cans and shipping delays. Social media has been flooded with memes showing people hoarding cans. Some businesses are running events where people can decorate cans or make prints on T-shirts. Diet Coke parties have become popular as bars and restaurants tap into the social media frenzy, with some organising events that come with a $10 to $16 entry fee and offer access to Diet Coke.
So there's a little bit of a craze around Diet Coke. The younger generation has really caught on to Diet Coke as a beverage of choice. And with the aluminium can shortage, I think a lot of people are trying to sort of keep the Diet Coke as an aesthetic, as a keepsake, as something to just, create a memorabilia around it.
This is our way of an ode to the entire shortage of Diet Coke. So people over here have gathered together. They are bedazzling the Diet Coke cans. Some of them are also doing a vintage art pop canvas painting. And we also have Diet Coke t-shirts where they're bedazzling them with rhinestones or just painting over it and making their own. So this is their way of becoming a part of the Diet Coke culture.
Whether you're joining us on YouTube, TikTok, Sounds, radio or TV, thanks for your time. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the Iran War Today.